On this podcast, we're going to be talking to all different kinds of people that are all on their own journey and they've all got their own story to tell. We're going to go beneath the surface. My name's Paul Schweiler and I hope you enjoy. And you actually just mentioned something before because I was going to ask you, like, the pronunciation of your name.
Have a guess. A surname.
Oh,
What did you think?
I was just looking at it. Well, yeah, Agyeman. Hey, this is
a gay man? What?
A gay man?
I've called that at a school before.
A gay man?
As a principal announced. He's like, Eric.
A G man? A gay?
It's Agyeman.
Agyeman,
yeah.
Agyeman.
Yeah, but the worst I've gotten is a gay man. And then I had to get up and I had to like turn that around in front of like 300 kids.
Hey, I know,
awesome.
I know what it's like to have a last name that people can't say.
Schweiler.
Oh, that's not bad.
Is that pronounced correctly?
Yeah, you say it with a shirt, so it's like Schweiler. But I hear it all.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I've never been called a gay man, but, you know. But is your first name actually Eric?
Yeah, it is Eric.
And middle name is
Kwasi. Yeah, which is my Ghanaian name.
What? I was going to ask you, like, where are you from? I genuinely don't know.
So I'm from Ghana, and this will be an interesting story for you. So my name, Kwasi, is because I'm born on Sunday, which is Kwasia Da. So
Right.
Da is day. So everyone in Ghana has a name on the day that they were born.
Wow.
So there's a million Kwasis because they were born on
So
Sunday.
it's a common name. So it's like Smith.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very common. Very common. And Agyeman, so I'm from the Ashanti tribe in
Right.
Ghana, which is like the royal tribe. So a lot of God, a lot of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Agyeman is a very, very familiar name.
Right.
That's one of the 10 like pillar names
Yep.
of that tribe.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. And like your background, you're obviously born there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you were born there.
Born in Ghana.
Yeah.
We left in 92
Yeah.
to New Zealand. And we lived in, so you know Cool Runners, the movie?
Yeah.
You know how they're in Jamaica,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tropics?
Yeah.
There's no winter, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
just sun
Yeah.
and rain, which is why they all have cool tans like me. So when they get to Canada for the Olympics,
Yeah.
you see the scene where they're all cold. So my dad moved us from the tropics of Ghana where there's no winter, there's only summer and rain. He moved us, guess where? To New Zealand. And out of all places in New Zealand, Dunedin. Like the coldest part. of South
Yeah,
Island.
right.
So that was where I sort of grew up
Yeah.
from years 5 to 10.
Yeah.
I loved the joint, loved the place. But it was also where I developed very low self-esteem at a very young age because I couldn't speak English.
Right.
And so being abroad in a country with Caucasian people and not
Yeah.
being able to speak their language and then recognizing where you come from, the color of your skin, being the only one there, that was where this low self-esteem really started for me.
Yeah,
you
wow.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. And have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so I got 7 step siblings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, big family.
Yeah.
But they're all like all over everywhere. There's majority are in Ghana, one in South Africa, one in Perth, one here. And then your boy representing Doreen.
Yeah, you're in the hood.
Yeah.
And look, it's an interesting comment that you made that when you moved over there, you had a really low self-esteem comparative to where you are today.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that looking back, or you might not have realized at the time, but that would have had a bit of an impact on where your journey has got to.
Yeah.
Is that, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but do you feel that the way that you were back then, you sort of aspired to get to where you are now? Was it a vision that you had to get to where you are today?
Man, I probably had no vision, to be honest.
No, you're lost?
A bit lost, yeah. I didn't. In fact, whenever I heard the word future, and I talk about this a lot in schools, whenever I heard the word future, I was always filled with anxiety and fear because I wasn't the straight A student. I wasn't the teacher's pet. I was the gang boy, like the Easy E, like the gangster. And so for me, whenever I heard future and career and all that, I got really anxious. But I think a turning point for my life was just being around positive people who could see the best in you.
Yeah.
Who could see that, hey, you have value, you have something to offer the world. And it's really believing those words and every day working towards something.
Right.
And to be honest, that journey, like it was never meant to be this, like what I do today in schools, motivating, inspiring young people. It was never that.
Right.
It was one step at a time. And then I literally stumbled into what I'm doing.
Right.
And I love it.
Like we can tell. you're I mean, it's easy to get hooked on just watching you, and I do. Like I look at your Instagram and I watch what you're doing. I watch the way you speak. Sometimes I'm not quite in tune with where it's going, but I'm very. It's gravitating. Like I almost want to keep listening because you're engaging. You're very engaging with the way you speak. So so you're obviously, you can tell that you love it. Yeah. But you know, we're obviously at the start of this conversation again, and I really thank you for coming on. Yeah. Give us a snapshot about what your day-to-day is, or in your last 6 months. Like what do you do?
Yeah, so my day-to-day is pretty much, obviously got two kids, two boys that my wife and I are raising, and so there's a lot of activity, a lot of play, a lot of fighting. You know, two boys. And so so there's that element, the family element, that I think is so important. You know, I have this saying that the very first funeral that I ever went to was in 2019 in Ghana. First funeral, I was 33 years of age. And at the funeral, I recognized that, you know, the person who was my uncle who had passed away, the first people that spoke were his spouse and his son that he left behind, right? And hearing the son speak and hearing him say stuff about the things that dad did for him, the moments they shared together, you know, the fun moments, those memories, it just made me think, wow, like there's no one from his workplace here giving a speech, you know? And it just really, for me, the message of legacy, but legacy within the four walls of your home, I believe, is where it really starts from, you know? And so for me, that was, that was something that was, that inspires me with my kids and my wife in terms of family life. So there's that. But apart from that, also, we do a lot of stuff in schools. And so what that looks like is we go into a school, we run workshops around identity, anti-bullying. Right now, obviously, mental health is a massive challenge for young people. You've also got, unfortunately, some real issues like racial bullying going on as well. A lot of which may not be intentional. For example, you got kids just throwing around the N-word because they don't know the weight of that. They don't know the impact that carries. I went to a school in the western suburbs and we did this interactive activity called bullets and seeds, right? Words that we speak, they fall into two categories, bullets or seeds. And so they had to write these words that were bullets, the words they've heard, which were really hurtful. I kid you not. There were cotton slave was on there. There was curry muncher on there. There were all of these, you know, fat this and that, and just really negative, hurtful words. And so a lot of what I do is really bring awareness to our young people, and really help them to see the power that they carry in their words and their actions, and how to really use that to be kind to people, how to be, I guess, a kind citizen, and someone that looks out for the betterment of their neighbor, their friend. So there's that. My wife and I also run a charity group as well, where we run events. So a lot of camps. We just did a father and son camp. And so once again, it really sort of connects back to the family, because we're seeing once again, currently in this generation, a lot of young people disconnected from their parents. Obviously, there's the natural generation gap, but then there's also the whole teenagers being engrossed with technology that even at a table, they're on their devices while mom and dad are doing this. And so we want to create events and moments and experiences where parents and their children can be reconnected again.
Yeah, I love that.
You know?
And how did that come about? Like, what were you doing before this begun? Yeah. What was your last role or source of income? Like, what were you doing prior to this?
Yeah.
Where was that turning point where you said, right, I'm going to drop tools and whatever you're doing to create this? Like, when did that happen?
So my first speaking engagement was in 2010, right? I was working at ANZ at the time. I'd just written my first book as well called Let's Go Chase Your Dreams. So I was speaking part-time, working full-time. And then as I was speaking in schools, I got better and better and better. In 2014, I think it was a real turning point where a teacher sat me down and said, yo, like what you're doing, the message that you share, like our kids light up when they hear that message. They were so engaged. You need to do more of this. And normally after a session, I'd get people come up, say hi, shake my hand, say thank you. But I would always get groups of boys that would come and be like, yo, man, that was so dope, man. You're real cool, this and that. But some of these boys sometimes would break down in front of me and go, hey, I resonate with that bullying, with that, you know, drugs. I resonate with that, you know? And so it was through those moments that I was like, man, I want to create something specifically for teenage boys as well. Because when I was a teenage boy, man, I struggled. I was lost. I was way off track, you know, from smoking to addiction to all sorts of different things, you know. And if I was to be really honest and vulnerable on this podcast with you, when I went into my early 20s, some of those behaviors had a negative impact on the people around me. For example, my anger as a teenage boy, my rage that I wasn't taught how to express and deal with, you know, that became, you know, me raising my voice at my wife year one of marriage. And I was like, damn, I don't like this. Yeah. You know? And so I wanted to do something that would help boys get a better vision of who they want to become, a better picture of that, rather than just navigate and just, you know, walk through life as it is. And so that was really the launching pad. So by that time I was working at Xero accounting software. Yeah, right. Probably my favorite corporate job ever. It was in Hawthorne. We had a basketball ring there. We had pool table. Man, it didn't even feel like work.
Good culture. Oh
man, great culture. I mean, tech company, so it wasn't corporate. You know, we rock up in clothes like this. Love my job. So I was there for 4 years. And so right about that time, at my 4th year mark, that was also the year that my uncle passed away. Right. And then my biological mum passed away as well. Right. So things were pretty heavy for me. And so I resigned in December that year, and then January was my last, 10th was my, 4 weeks later was my last day. But that was really when I sensed that it was time to really go into this. So that the boys' idea then became a boys' mentoring program. Right. So 10 weeks, we go through what it means to respect mum and dad, what it means to, you know, to speak kindly, what it means to be a positive role model to your younger siblings. What does it mean to have a goal, have visions for the future?
Where did this program come from? Did you write it, or you wrote it yourself?
I wrote the whole curriculum. Yeah. Literally just took the struggles of my teenage years.
That's just going to say, like, did you follow another platform, or did you just look back and look at your journey and actually break it down into what you feel that is good to give, rather than go to someone else and actually write a program that might not have been as authentic? So 3 parts. Number 1, it had to be my story, right? So I went back to my teenage years and I took out the pains, you know, all of the struggles, all of that. 2, I joined a coaching program called the John Maxwell Leadership Program. So that was where I got like the framework on how to apply things. And number 3 was I just looked at the research around mental health, around even, you know, suicide and all that sort of stuff with young people. You know, so it's that, even like the suicide numbers. That's why I'm so intentional about goal setting, having a vision board. Because that vision board that you see every day gives you hope for the future. So if you're having a crappy day, you can still look at that vision board and go, no, this is just temporary. I'm going somewhere. This is where I'm going. You know what I mean? And so those 3 elements was what came together. My story, the John Maxwell program framework, and then just the research and the science to back mental health and all of that sort of stuff, you know, was what really became the foundation for it. And then being someone that is so of the culture, as in like, you know, I know what's happening with the culture. I know the latest rapper who's doing this or saying that. And so being able to deliver that in a way that connects, that's not like, oh, here's this old Eric guy who thinks, you know, no, it's like, here's Eric and his Jordans, like talking our language, you know what I mean? Making it relatable. So when you go and talk to schools, so you're obviously, some of your workshops, it's a male thing. When you go to schools, it's a co-education, or is it male only? No. I mean, 2 days ago I was at St. Aloysius, I think it's pronounced, in the city. And they up into last year were all girls. I mean, the class I spoke to were all girls. Right. So your workshops are more male, father, son. No, so the school stuff is co-ed. It's both. But within school, I also run a Boys to Noblemen program specifically for boys. Right. But I do like whole year level of boys and girls through the racial bullying and the anti-bullying stuff, and the resilience. Then we've got the camps. So the camps are the father and sons.
My wife runs a teen girls one as well. And then I run also the teen boys.
Because that's what I was going to ask. Like, if you're both involved in it, then you're obviously getting to have a touch point and do a similar thing with the girls and mums and all that as well.
Yeah,
so you got both covered.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Is there a place to cross over, or do you kind of stay in your own lane, or do you interact with your workshops, or do you really stay with the male part on your side of things?
So in terms of going back to the whole year level workshop, right? Classic example is on Monday, St. Aloysius. So doing a workshop on resilience. So that's for everyone. Going deeper, doing a session on anti-bullying and the power of words. That's for everyone. But it's where when I do the boys, that's obviously a little bit separate, and that focuses on the boy stuff. So Andrew Tate will come up, those names and that sort of stuff. But it does cross over. The father and son, we in our programs, we actually have a week called Family Week, where the boy will cook the meal for the family and organize like a games night as well. We have them write a letter to their mum, so that that crosses, because we want them to have. We want to see transformation in their relationship with every member of the family. So that's where the crossover.
And these schools, is it the kids that are at school, are they actually putting their hand up to be involved in this, or is it a compulsory thing for their school to be involved and listen in?
Yeah, so the whole year level, obviously, that I go in and just do a whole year level. But the targeted boys, those are boys who've been given letters to give to their parents to say, hey, this is going to help you. They normally put it under like personal development.
Yeah, sure.
And so, there are some schools that have had me come because of they've had some, perhaps some different ethnic backgrounds involved in gangs and things like that. And obviously being part of a gang to winning the African Australian of the Year, they find that there's great value in having someone like me as a role model.
Of course.
Be able to be a representation of what's possible for them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so what do you feel, like what are the main struggles out there in the moment that we don't even hear about? And obviously my kids we were just chatting about it before, but as they get older, they're going to go through these years at school. But like, what are the main struggles that you're noticing? Any patterns about what these kids are facing at the moment? Yeah,
so there's a friendship struggle,
right?
Which I think goes way back to even when you and I were at school. It's the need to fit in, the need to belong. Going with the popular crowd, going with what's trending. And what's trending right now is vaping. What's trending right now is the heavy hip hop music, which is, by the way, the number one genre for youth generation. The only problem with that, though, Paul, is that 95% of those songs, they glorify sex, objectify women, talk about drugs and gang violence. Which sucks, because that's what they're listening to. You know what I mean? And
depends if someone listens to the lyric or they listen to they listen to it but they don't hear it. But if people are actually paying attention and reading the lyrics and listening to what they're saying, then it's not going to influence them in a good direction.
So I find that mature people will hear it and be like, whatever. But those who young 13, 14 forming their identity, I feel like from what I know, they really take in the words.
What's been said.
So for example, the B word, like bitch, for example, when they're hearing it over and over, what happens is it's normalized now. So at school, because it's gone in here, it comes out here.
Of course.
They'll call someone a bitch. And that's where it sort of came from. Whereas if you and I were to listen to that music and we heard that word, we wouldn't necessarily go around calling someone that. You know what I mean? And so I guess it's the exposure at a young age that, can throw them off. I also think, obviously, there's the mental health challenges of anxiety. With what COVID did, it's created a whole bunch of, unfortunately, there's 2 years of where kids didn't get to go out and socialize. And so now the kids that were in primary school at that age come out of COVID and now they're in high school.
Do you feel like the COVID has really played a role in negativity with kids these days?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've really seen an impact from
that? Absolutely, yeah, because they've spent so much time online on devices. And devices, when you look at the research, it has a negative impact on mental health. Also I think some of the boys, 6-7 hours gaming over 2 days has an impact as well that they don't recognize, though, unfortunately. It just makes them feel down and they don't know where it's coming from,
It's interesting on that because, I go into people's homes and I get a tour around and you see these open a bedroom and there's a young bloke in there with his headphones on playing Fortnite or whatever it is. And parents sometimes think that having them on there gaming for so long, they're still communicating with their friends.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, but it can work both ways.
Yeah.
It depends on the hours spent.
Yeah, how it's spent. And I think also the communication online is a little bit different from the communication in person, you know? And so that's where they don't know how to translate. Well, then how do I communicate in front of someone?
Yeah.
Or an adult,
you
know, where it's not gaming related.
Yeah, of course.
But also the other one that I see happen a lot is you do have a lot of kids who live in a home with parents but feel neglected.
Right.
Feel they don't get enough attention. You know, so they go seek that attention elsewhere. And look, I mean, I think, you know, with inflation, interest rate rises and all of that, there's a lot of pressure on every single parent out there.
Of course.
Myself, yourself, everyone.
Everyone feels it.
Everyone's feeling it.
Yep.
You know, I'm part of a group on Facebook called Barefoot Investor. Scott Pape, and where you see it every day. People are feeling it, you know, and so going out there to work a second job or whatever it is, just so they can maintain a certain lifestyle. It does have some impact on the kids feeling like, well, after school I'm just going to go home and just go on my devices, and then that becomes a bit of a challenge. Where it becomes an addiction.
Do you think that your role makes you more aware of how you feel and your family? I mean, if it doesn't, like, no one's perfect, but but do you think that you've got a really good wrap over your own emotions and what's happening, and an awareness of what's happening within your home? And sometimes dealing with it as what you might mention to someone else how to deal with it. Do you think that what your business and your work, it's having a great impact on the way that you and your family deal with life?
Yeah, I think it's having a really positive impact. But I mean, but like you see so many homes, right? That when you come to your own home, you notice everything.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's being in a certain field, you begin to recognize everything. That field relates to in your own personal way. So for me, you know, we have my sons and I individually, we have weekly, you know, time together that I prioritize. I'm definitely not perfect, but I do say this, and that is that I would hate to be at school speaking about the power of words and come home, call my son an idiot. That will most likely never happen. You know what I mean? So it really keeps me accountable. And it also helps me because I work with parents as well. We do parent seminars in schools as well. So because I do that, it just gives me an insight to the challenges that families are going through. But because I've got young ones, I mean, they've got teenagers, I've got young ones. So it allows me to come back and be like, okay, this is what I need to do here and there and here. And though it's not perfect, at least it's more progress and more awareness than if I was working at zero still.
Of course. I think, and the people will watch this podcast that have got kids at all different age groups, maybe people that don't even have kids, but, you know, locals that may be feeling distant from their teenage kids at the moment as well. Like I'm sure it's much more detailed than this because you're going to sit around and you do workshops and you speak to these parents, but I mean, what are some of the key tips that you give kids and parents if there's a real disconnect in their home at the moment where kids come home, shut the door, not speaking, breakfast, they're out? Like, what are some of the key points that you'd go to straight away to try and bring some love back in the house?
Some joy back. Well, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, right? So for anyone that's probably done marriage counseling, you've probably been told about that book, right? And it's really learning how, you know, your spouse would like to receive love, whether it's words of affirmation, whether it's gifts of service, whatever it may be. And I feel like that needs to apply when it comes to a father or a mother and son-daughter relationship, because a lot of times parents are what parents are doing for their kids, they feel that's the love they need, but everyone has a different love language. So if a parent wants to restore or wants to reset their relationship, one of the great ways I would say is to find out what that child's love language is. How do you
work that out? How do you work out what your true love language is? As in yourself individually?
Like,
like how do you even work out what it truly is. You might think it's something, but it's actually not.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be reflection. So I think the 5 love languages are around like words of affirmation is one. So service. So that's like, someone offering to, clean your husband, clean your car every weekend like that. You find joy in that. The other one is gifts. So for example,
some people like to be spoiled.
Yeah, people like to be spoiled, So for someone to identify what it is, they'd have to just reflect. When were the moments where I felt the most joy? Was it when my wife complimented me and said, honey, like, you look great, or you're doing great in your work or your career? Or was it when she brought me my new pair of Jordans? Yeah. Was that when my eyes lit up and I was like...
You like your Jordans too, yeah?
I love my Jordans, man. So it's reflection on the moments and times where something happened and it brought you the most joy. Because that will be an indicator okay, that's part of my love. Now, I mean, I don't think there's anyone that has only one though.
No.
It's a whole range. I think it's a couple.
Most people may have one that's a standout though.
It's a standout, that's right.
Like I know my wife, she loves acts of service.
There you go.
When she comes home and I've cleaned the kitchen or made the bed.
Come on now. 10 points.
Mate, 10 it's points. An 11 out of 10. Like it's the small things.
Yeah.
And they're so easy to do. Like it's just the small things that are easy for me to do that make her feel so great.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know why I do it more often. I'm sorry. I will try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I don't even really know what mine is. But I just need to learn to do more things for her and it makes her happy.
Yeah.
It's funny. So again, mums and dads that are watching this or even their kids that may realise that there is a disconnect with mum and dad, it's probably just paying attention to those things and working out what's going to actually make mum and dad feel good. Yeah. What they say they want might not be what actually is going to make them reconnect. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right? Reconnection with mum and dad and kids and
absolutely.
Some people just might not know where to start.
Yeah.
Some people feel like there's just no chance of recovering from maybe whatever they've gone through.
Yeah. And I mean, when you say no chance of recovery, there are also family dynamics where there's been a lot of hurt, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And so with that, you may need a third person, a third party, whether it's a professional psychologist or counselor or whatever that is, but you may need I've worked with situations of a family where the father and son hadn't spoken in 3 years because the son was really hurt by something the father did. Yeah. And that's not something that can just be resolved between the two.
No, not at all.
A third party. So, for families that are at that extent, then that's something to consider. I think also, last one is on a family level, something that I love to share is it's called like a family dinner night.
Right.
So there's a night where, you organize everyone to be around the table, get some really nice special food. We're going to have a games night tonight as well. Okay, let's go around the table and let's, if it's okay, let's share some of the things that we love, some of the words or phrases that we love hearing. We don't have to mention names specifically of who said it, who did it, but let's also mention some of the negative ones that we've heard or seen as well that didn't serve us well. Yeah. Let's bring that up. Let's not mention names. Okay, and then at the end of that, everyone gets to share. We then say, okay, from today, these sorts of words, they're no longer allowed in this house. Yep. Because this is what we've seen it do to people. Because you've got people in homes who feel belittled. You got a younger sibling who's always told, F off or this or that by the older sibling. They feel so belittled. So that what that dinner does, what that moment does, it brings awareness for everyone on the table. And you almost have a sort of like a agreement. Okay, this is so that what that is doing is it's resetting the family vibe, the family thermometer to say, okay, we want this household to be positive. We only speak up, we don't speak down.
I love that. We do something similar. I think a lot of people do it is we get home at night and we don't do it on purpose. We just do it because we think about it. I might say to Zali, what was the rose of your day? What was the thorn of your day?
Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful. Yeah.
And it's actually a really good way to understand in my eyes of what didn't make them feel good, but what made them feel really good. And sometimes the rose of their day, particularly on a Sunday, do all these different activities, the rose of their day is something that you thought would have been something else. The things that actually truly make them feel good inside. So that's a common one in our house. The what's the rose? What's the thorn? Oh man, and it's good fun. Awesome. You can get a good laugh out of it.
Rose
as well.
and thorn. I might take that to.
Yeah, we do it every night, but we do it every night not, again, we don't go, right, it's time for rose and thorn.
Yeah.
We just go, hey, what was the rose of your day? What was the thorn?
Yeah.
And it's fun. We do it with Will. He's a bit younger, but you get a good laugh out of it. You know, and it's and Em and I say to each other, what was the rose of your day?
Yeah.
You know, it's just a good way to unpack something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really great. But again, obviously through everything that you do, you know, faith is a huge part, and Christianity and whatnot, and I can obviously say it's a huge part of what you do.
Yeah.
What about people that are watching and that maybe want to get involved that, you know, aren't of those sort of same beliefs? Is that something that you still get those people involved in your workshops that may not be down that path of religion?
Bro, I speak in more public schools than I do faith schools.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I mean, I was at Hazel Glen College. Man, I do more public than I do faith. So that, you know, the faith is my personal conviction.
Yeah.
Right. And whether someone calls it faith or whether someone calls it values, I think at the end of the day, you know, I can't be convinced out of it, because at the core of what I believe is that, Paul, I want to treat you with value.
Yep.
I want to treat you with respect. At the core of what I believe, you know what I mean? And so, so we do more public schools than we do faith-based schools.
When you're speaking, do you ever think to yourself that maybe you're not being true to yourself because you're actually holding back some of the words that you'd like to say because you believe strong and you're quite out there with, well, not out there, but you're outspoken, I suppose, with how you feel.
Yeah.
Do you feel like every school that you go to, you're true to yourself?
I do feel that. So my keynote presentation has about 4 things that I've tweaked.
Right.
From being at a Christian school and a public school.
Okay.
Now, number one, at a public school, my sole mission is to inspire these kids, but to respect and honor the rules of that place, the teacher who's brought me in, right? And so, for example, in Ghana, after my suicidal attempt, it was at a church where my life began to turn around, right? It was a group of guys that I would hang out with. So when I'm speaking, at a public school, I would say that I discovered faith, right? Or spirituality. And then I would say, and I hung around with a positive group of friends. And then I would quickly draw contrast to the gang that I was part of as a teenager. So whereas this is negative, this is now positive.
Yeah.
So that's how I literally spin it. And bring a point across that in life, if you hang around fools, you're going to become a fool. If you hang around wise people, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I extract the faith elements and dish it out, deliver it in a way where it's respectful of everyone that's in the room and they can still get what they need to get. The lesson of, okay, my company matters. The company that I keep, my friendship groups, they matter. You know what I mean? So I honestly feel 100%. In terms of how I speak, man, that's the same level though. Same passion.
You can tell you're passionate.
I'm still sweating at the end.
You go hard.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just...
But it's not fabricated. You're talking from the heart. Like
man.
It's so true.
And that's the difference. Like, for example, I'll spend, I'll never stand behind a stage looking at my notes. I'm walking around.
Yeah.
Because everything's here.
That's right.
I'm not reading off
and
the
you can
scripts.
You can tell that.
Yeah.
But I've got so many questions for you, but really quickly.
Yeah.
I like you made a comment just then, and it's sort of, I can still hear it. And you don't have to go there if you don't want, but you made a comment that there was a suicidal attempt in your past.
Yeah.
Where were you? Like, what was going on in your life?
Yeah, so I was in Ghana. It was 2002. It was just the feeling of hopelessness, you know.
So it's 2002.
Yeah.
So how old are you?
Ooh, I was born in 86.
So you're 16
years of age. Just a feeling of hopelessness. I think, the emotions of suicidal thoughts, they have to do a lot with your current situation when that becomes too much and you can't see the future, And so for me, when I looked at all my mistakes, when I looked at all the stuff that I was involved with, when I looked at my past, man, it was all negative, but I think something else that I bring out a little bit in schools is I share, once again, the power of words, right? Because I was told that I would never achieve anything because I was African. So when I was in those dark thoughts stages, those words came back.
Yep.
You know, and so that's why I go on and on that words are so powerful, and the words travel beyond. Words don't need a visa to go to another country to follow someone. You know, we have adults today who are living in the reality of the words that were spoken to when they were kids. That, hey, you'll never do this, you'll never be this, you'll never achieve this. You know what I mean? And so so for me, those thoughts really sort of became like almost like the last brick that would make a wall crumble. You know, and so. Yeah, just thoughts for me. Dark thoughts of this is where I'm at. I hate it. It sucks. Life sucks. You know.
Can you imagine even going back and having those thoughts today?
I mean, we all have our days where life feels like it sucks. Whether it's a rejection.
What are your challenges?
I mean, we have massive challenges. We've had times where, you know, we've reached out to, let's just say, 30 schools. We've had 29 no's. That sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You know, going from working a full-time job at Xero to doing this, you know, running our own thing. Like there are low months.
Yep.
You know, and then our father and son stuff, that's all like a non-for-profit. That's literally like us doing it out of the kindness of our hearts. You know what I mean?
And that I mean that's amazing to do, and it would make you feel good, and obviously it would give you opportunity for other growth, but but you're not actually getting remunerated for it either. And if you're giving it so much energy, everyone, like the cost of living's going up. Like let's talk a little bit more about the real world scenarios. These things cost money.
Absolutely.
And you're outpouring your heart. And you're not actually receiving, which sometimes it's obviously not all about that. Clearly, but you know, when you're not getting remunerated, it can be difficult.
Absolutely.
And it's like, do I focus my energy on that if I'm not actually getting something in return? It's trying to get that balance.
Absolutely.
You know, and I guess that'd be hard.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, like, you know, pretty much over the last 4 years, there's not a single month that, you know, I don't think about what if I was doing something else? You know what I mean? Because you're faced with the realities. But I guess at the end of the day, I go back to, you know, what's my purpose here? You know, what's my mission? What am I trying to do? And that is, we're trying to reach.
What's your mission? Like straight out, like what is your mission? What's your why?
My why is that every young person deserves to know that they have a bright future. And, you know, part of that is to reach, mentor, transform 1 million youth by 2031.
I've seen that,
You know, to get this out there, to talk to a 14, 15-year-old Eric who is anxious about his future, who is doubtful of his potential, to speak to him and tell him, hey, it's going to be all right. Hey, you can do it. No matter your background, no matter the country you're born into, the family, no matter the challenges, the setbacks, your accent or anything like that. You are worthy, you have value, and you too can achieve great things in life.
So you're saying things to people that obviously you believe in it, but maybe you would have liked someone to say back to you years ago.
If I knew that earlier, I would have, if I knew that earlier, I would have, and I probably wouldn't have hit the point of you know, suicidal thoughts as well, you know, because a lot of that has to do with worth and identity, you know, self-esteem. So
do you know that there have been kids out there? I know the answer to this, but you've like there's kids and there's families out there that you know that you have genuinely changed for the better. Do you get do you get that feedback, or do you ever sometimes everyone gets busy with their day-to-day role, and do you ever sometimes forget that you're changing lives?
Man,
do you get the reminder that you deserve that, hey, man, you spoke to me 12 months ago. And I want to let you know that you've dragged me through some dark times and I'm walking through rainbows. Like, do you get that feedback?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, at every event, we normally give microphone out to people to just share. You know, like the father and son camp. There was a father that said, you know, this is the first time in 2 years that they're actually hanging out one-on-one doing something like this, you know? And, you know, whether it's schools as well, just on Monday, a girl stood up and just said, what stuff that you've been saying, the bullying, all of that, like I'm having to navigate that right now. But to know that someone's gone through it and come out on the other side gives me hope, you know? So we always hear it. And sometimes it's such a an awakening for us, because there are days, Paul, if I'm to be honest, there are programs that in the process of us putting it on, halfway through, we're like, oh, let's cancel it. It's too much work, too much this, too much that. And then for whatever reason, it's probably my wife. She's like, no, let's do this.
Yeah.
We do it. And then you hear these stories, man.
Yeah.
And you look back and you're like, you know what? Let's run it back next year. Let's do it again next year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like, I'll be honest, like once again, being vulnerable, the father and son camp, the timing of the camp was such that there were so many youth camps at that time. So a lot of the kids that had come through our programs that we thought would be coming were going to these other youth camps that they'd already booked a year in advance.
Yep.
And so our numbers and everything was low. And halfway through, I said to my wife, this is probably in May, I'm like, do we just cancel? And she's like, you've got a family flying in from Queensland. It's already booked their flights, their tickets. What do you mean cancel?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool, you got me.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we did it. And guess what? Next year, we've booked it already. It's going to be 3 days, 2 nights. So instead of one night, 2 days.
Yeah.
Just because of the feedback.
That's amazing.
You
should be really proud, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
And what's the next step? A few things quickly. I want to quickly talk about your book.
Yeah.
You wrote a book.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not the first book.
No, it's not. That's my 4th book, but this one's special. Tell
me a really good snapshot it for me.
Yeah. So it's around the idea that, once again, every young person deserves to know they have a bright future. So the book is a journal, 30-day emotional resilience journal.
Right.
It's broken up into 3 segments. The number 1 part is identity. So it's all about worth, that you have worth and value. And so over the first 12 days, you go through prompts. Each day has a reflection, an action, and an affirmation, right? The second part is all about resilience. So failure is never, ever a person. It's only ever an event. So I draw on inspiration and stories such as Oprah Winfrey and her ordeal as a teenage person and what she's been able to achieve. So real inspiration that you can get through whatever it is that you're going through because you have a foundation of that you have value. The third part, I love the third part. The third part is about a hopeful future. So this centers on Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned for, I think it was 27 or so years, and you would think that would be the end of his life. But in prison, he was preparing for his future. Crazy.
Yeah.
A future of what? Becoming a president. And so he did. He became that. And so it's all about preparing for the future.
Yeah, that's
goal
awesome.
setting, vision board, that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so wrap that all up together. 30 days emotional resilience, for any person. It can
Is this just for youth? Can this be,
Well, last week I was at a conference. A parent came to buy one for their son. Came back 30 minutes later, like teary, brought another one and goes, I had to flip through. And I have an older son who needs this as well.
Amazing.
Like an adult son who needs this as well.
So where does someone find this book?
EricAgyeman.com. So that's
we'll actually throw your name up in the Ali will do that in the screen. But so people can jump on, grab a book. Can they reach out to you directly and discuss any potential future events you've got going on?
So once again, Eric Agyeman, they can go on there. There's like a booking form for whatever event, whether it's a youth event, school event, whatever it is, parent seminar, whatever it is.
Amazing. That's awesome. I've got 10 questions here, but before we rapid fire 10 questions, where to from here for you? Like what's the next 2 years look like for the Royal Hood?
Where to from here? Definitely, more father and son restoration.
Right.
Also helping more young boys specifically with respect and honor. Because once again, what they do today, a teenage boy that can honor their mum today will be a teenage boy, become a man in his future who will honor his spouse. I strongly believe in that. Giving them values now rather than later. We have this phrase saying it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And so those two things, father and son, and then obviously, everything else we're doing is for young people to empower them for the best possible future ahead.
So good. So what was that saying? What did you just say?
It is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Frederick Douglass.
Man, I love that. That's great. That's really good. Mate, it's powerful. Like I appreciate everything you're doing, and it's not you're not doing it for me, you're doing it for everyone else. I appreciate that. Like, congratulations. You should be really proud. That's so good, mate. So anyone that's watching this, grab a book, reach out. 10 questions as we come to a close. Random. First, number 1, winter or summer?
Summer. Oh,
always?
Yeah.
Dinner or breakfast?
Dinner.
1 mil now or 5 mil in 10 years?
Now 1 mil now.
Yeah, take the mil. Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
Of course. Pool or tennis court?
Ooh. I'll take the tennis court because I'll put a basketball court on the tennis court as
Fair
well.
call. You get both. You get both. Call or text?
Text.
AFL team?
If I had to, Richmond Tigers.
Okay. If we went and played golf right now, what would you score on 18 holes?
To give you my knowledge of golf, I don't even know what 18 holes is. I'm sorry to let you down.
So it'd be a lot. You'd all right. You'd be
it wouldn't be what Steph Curry did 3 days ago.
No, I saw that. 1 word to describe your wife.
Wise.
All right. Okay.
Off record, I was going to say exotic.
All right.
Because she's Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how that go down with your listeners. but me and her joke about that a lot.
Mate, the listeners will love that. Exotic and wise.
Exotic and wise.
And 1 word to describe your children.
Young kings.
Young what?
Young kings.
Kings. Young kings. Yeah, I love that.
Young kings.
The kings. It's a symbol for you guys, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the whole royalty, and it's a big one for me because I felt so inferior growing up in Ringwood, being the only African at my school, being racially bullied, felt so inferior,
right?
Like you wouldn't believe, and so that whole royalty, royal, it just speaks of worth, of value.
Yeah, it does.
You know?
It does.
And of nobility, and that's what I want my kids to grow up in this world knowing that.
So good, mate.
Yeah.
Well done, mate. I'm thankful to know you. I appreciate that we've crossed paths.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for what you bring in the future and everything you're doing now. Like, I tip my hat to you, mate. Honestly,
no, thank you.
You do a great job, and I enjoy watching. And congratulations, well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I just want to say as well, like, you know, I think it goes right back, man. Like I see all of your stuff, man. I see all the houses, and I get so inspired. And
Thanks,
I love how, you know, you're leading edge. You know, sitting back, you're leading the charge, you know.
Gotta.
And it speaks because, you know, you've got your accolades to back it all up, and just even what you do on this podcast, to be able to hear other people's stories, you know, I think it shows that yes, you kill it at your game, but it's more than your game.
100%.
It's
not all about the game.
Yeah.
The game makes the world go around. There's much more to it than that.
There's much more to it. So,
you know?
So well done to you, man.
I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good on you. See you soon.